Hello, this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have far-right riots erupt in the UK in the wake of child murders from NBCnews.com, and that's by Zachness. And yeah, I think it's interesting how the rioters are being framed as far-right and definitely in the wrong. When the in-group was rioting back during George Floyd, they framed it as, oh, riots are the language of the unheard. Just some food for thought. And we have Oklahoma schools head Ryan Walters, teachers who won't teach Bible could lose license, from NBCnews.com by CH4Locks. And I definitely would agree that's not good. I think if teachers don't want to teach the Bible, I don't think they should be forced to do so. And yeah, that's my thought on that issue. I think if public schools want to teach whatever they want, I think they should be able to. But with that being said, I don't think any teaching should be mandated, and by the state. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Oklahoma schools in revolt over Bible mandate, from boardbat.com by CH4Locks. And yeah, I don't think they should be mandating anything. I don't think the state should be mandating anything when it comes to education, or really mandating anything at all in general. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have FTC issues orders to 8 companies seeking information on surveillance pricing, from FTC.gov by Throwaway 146225. And yeah, I think private companies should be able to do what they want. But with that being said, I do think it's the people's job to hold them accountable rather than that of the state. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have vicious spiral, alert issued after Donald Trump proposed a massive radical plan to pay off $35 trillion of U.S. national debt, from Forbes.com. And I didn't comment on that one, but it's from Zachness. But, yeah. I don't think, we should be throwing that much money around like it's nothing. And, but, that's increasingly what the government does. They throw around trillions of dollars like it's nothing. And that's why we have the inflation that we do. And, yeah, that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Trump supporting PAC backed by Elon Musk reportedly under criminal investigation, from rawstory.com, and that was by Winter Travis, but they since deleted their account. And I didn't comment on that one since they had me blocked, but yeah, I don't think I think all PACs should probably, if people want to investigate PACs, they should be able to. But that being said, the left only hates PACs when they are playing for the opposing team. They like them when they're playing for their team. I remember recently another user of the subreddit shared a video from a progressive PAC about how bad Republicans were or something, and that's my thoughts there. Then we have the oligarchs are trying to have their way, from theatlantic.com by Throwaway 146225, and yeah, ultimately those in positions of economic power are gonna ultimately probably have their way more often than not. And ultimately, I think it's the people's job to hold them accountable if they feel like they've crossed the line. Ultimately, I think we live in a world where increasingly economic capital is giving way to more social capital is probably creating more increasingly prevalent than economic capital. And that's my thoughts on that. Are increasingly whoever controls the social capital arguably has more control than who has the economic capital, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have fascist riots break out in the UK over false information 4 weeks after Labour government installed, from wintertravix.substack.com by wintertravix. And yeah, I think it's interesting how I talked about this earlier, how they're framed as fascist riots, yet when the left riots, its riots are the language of the unheard. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have conservative Republicans got it right, from Malatesta Fiesta, and that's crosswords from the IWW subreddit. And it's a quote from Abraham Lincoln: "Labor is the prior to and independent of capital. Capital is the only the fruit of labor and could never have existed if labor had not first existed. Labor is the superior of capital and deserves much higher consideration." Abraham Lincoln, 1809 to 1865, Republican President. First annual message, December 3rd, 1861. And I said in response, "Just goes to show how long the GOP has been enabling tyrants for. I think Abraham Lincoln was arguably one of the worst tyrants to ever inhabit the White House, because I personally like how I do like how he did contribute to the end of slavery. But other than that, I would say every other president he sent was negative, because now people are forced into the Union forever, regardless of if they like it or not. And now people say now the ends always justify the means. And if a lot of people had their way, we would have probably had Chinese style lockdowns during COVID. That's what Abraham Lincoln probably would have done. And yeah, that's my thoughts on him. I definitely think he's probably one of our worst presidents, despite being marketed as one of our best presidents. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Louisiana governor tells parents against 10 commandments in classroom. Tell your child not to look, from NBCNews.com by Donald Key. And yeah, I personally don't think they should mandate the 10 commandments in classroom. I think if a teacher wants to put them up, like if they want to put like a pride flag up, I think they should be able to. But that being said, I'm very against the fact that they are mandated. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we are arresting you on suspicion of improper use of the Electronics Communications Network. So it's a Facebook crime, is it? From Mike Benz on Twitter, and that was him quote tweeting a concerned citizen. "Am I going to be locked up for the night? Do I need more medications? Welcome to 2024 Britain, where the police arrive at your home to arrest you for comments made on Facebook." And I said in response, the rioters are the ones being labeled the fascists, though, when in reality, you see stuff like this, the government's behaving far more fascistly than the rioters are, but that's not what the narrative says. And it's kind of like Orwell said in 1984, "War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength." The rioters are the fascists, not the government, even though the government is inherently going to be more fascistic than any non-state actor rioters. And that's my thought on that issue. If you just are, regardless of what comments they make, I don't care if they were a threat or if they posted someone's address. If you're justifying having two police go to someone's house, regardless of whatever bullshit comments they made on Facebook, you probably aren't a libertarian. It doesn't even have to be that extreme. They arrested a guy who tweeted a picture of 4 pride flags arranged in the shape of a swastika, and yeah. That's why it's getting really bad for free speech out in Europe. I saw a video posted under the, I think, quote tweeted comment that said the Great Britain or the UK had more social media related arrests than Russia, and that's something that's scary. The West says, "Oh, we support free speech and all that," but it's all a lie. And increasingly, Europe, the mask is coming undone in Europe, and I think it's only a matter of time before the mask comes undone in the U.S. Even with the First Amendment, because they found a way to get around the Constitution and the Bill of Rights as much as possible with stuff like the Patriot Act. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, this election will burn $10 billion in destructive contests to determine who gets to boss us around. Most of all, that money is contributed on a purely voluntary basis. Then when volunteers suggest just doing that for the roads, they call us crazy. From Voluntarists on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, close to most of replied, "The vast majority of money comes from PACs, not just regular folks donating." I said, not always. I remember back when I used to be a Bernie guy, he had said his average campaign contribution was $27. So, I think if people want to give money into the system, they should be able to. But with that being said, I think it's interesting how people don't like voluntary interaction. Most of our society, I think, is already voluntary, outside of being forced to pay taxes. And yeah, I think voluntary government is much more possible than people think it is, like this tweeter said here, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have the currency that was supposed to save us from the established order from a narco-federation, and that's a tweet from the Prince of a Thousand Enemies. "Invent the ultimate libertarian currency untethered by corrupt government. It follows the U.S. stock market exactly." And that was him quoting Walter Bloomberg. "Bitcoin plummets 18%, Japan's raft hike, crypto market loses $500 billion. And then Anarcho Federation, the poster of this, said, This is really eye-opening. How to any who thought this alternative currency would be the catalyst of revolutionary change, it comes unsurprising that cryptocurrencies in general is not distinct from heterodox currency. It does not provide an alternative, but merely follow systems and institutions in place. Sociologically, this is inevitable, as no structural change to systems happens by just switching models to follow the same capitalism. And I said in response, he's got a point there. I like what Red Eggplant said. The only honest currency is gold. Gold's always going to be valuable. It's that of everything else. I think it's just kind of an extrapolation of wealth. Gold will probably always be valuable as long as it's scarce, unless it undergoes like an aluminum thing. And aluminum used to be scarce. That's why they put it at the top of the Washington Monument. But then it became less scarce, and now it's in foil. So as long as gold's scarce, I think it's definitely going to always be valuable. And that's my fault on that issue. Then we have Kamala Harris's running mate choice narrows to Tim Walz, Josh Shapiro's sources say from USA Today, and I posted that, and I said, both very shitty choices. You have Tim Kaine 2.0 on one side, who is governor of the state that she is almost certain to win, and the slightly more charismatic guy who's going to piss off the progressives since he is a Zionist Jew, Mark Kelly or Andy Bashir, was Harris's best choice of her top six. I said, and the other two were J.B. Pritzker, who pissed off the president since he's a billionaire, and Buttigieg, who feel like leaning into identity politics too much since, he's pretty much the entire brand is just being gay. And that's my thoughts on that issue. I definitely hope it's not that Shapiro, because, they found him funneling money from the Public Teachers Union into his governor campaign, and he also went back on his word when it came to school vouchers, and he covered up a sexual harassment case. And he also pushed to remove the Green Party from the Pennsylvania ballot for the 2020 post elections, since he thought they would steal votes from the Dems. So I definitely don't move against him. I think Walz might be better since he's a bit more bland, but I definitely think both of them are probably gonna not a good choice for her. And I think I personally think Walz would also be better because they would also say they also wouldn't yell about anti-Semitism when they lose. Well, I guess they still could since, Kamala is married to a Zionist Jew as well, but, they'll find whatever excuses they want, I guess. Then we have RFK Jr. admits to dumping a dead bear in Central Park, solving a decade-old mystery from NPR.org by CH4 Locks, apparently to frame it as a bicycle impact, they added. And, RFK Jr. is kind of interesting like that. I think he might be on the spectrum. That's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have mask ban in Nassau County, Long Island, and that's a tweet from Lucky Tran. It's official. Mask ban in Nassau County, New York passes along party lines. 12-0, 7 abstentions. It makes wearing a mask a misdemeanor of unclear health and religious exceptions, and gives police power to fine people wearing a mask from $1,000 and sentence them to jail time. And I said in response, the government shouldn't mandate anything regarding a person's physical appearance. Go out in your birthday suit for all I care. Then we have 62 members of the Iraqi parliament signed to pass a bill based on Islamic law that will allow adult men to marry girls as young as 9 years old. And that's from CH4 Locks, a crossword from the ex-Muslim subreddit. And I said, Reddit actually criticizing Islam instead of Christianity for once, And I added, I don't hate Muslims. One of my coworkers is Muslim. I'm just saying that progressives hold Islam and Christianity to different standards. And that's my thoughts on that issue, I personally am against child marriage, but ultimately it comes down to who has the force, economic capital, and social capital to do what, and that's my thoughts there. Then we have The Reality of Slavery in America versus Everywhere Else from John Stoss on YouTube, and I posted that. And I like how it goes into how, Americans are taught that slavery was a uniquely U.S. American evil, but increasingly all societies have engaged in slavery to somewhat, at least from most of human history. I think that's very important to remember. People want to think of the U.S. as a specific evil, but in reality, the U.S. is just comprised of the same humans that make up all the other countries as well. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And I think we're going to wrap it up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.